need to document this.
Are you doing a TikTok?
Maybe.
Hey! I love meeting people like that. It's like, you won't think I'm weird if I ask you for a TikTok.
Oh, now I'm nervous.
Ah!
I would consider myself shy, actually, but just
You do?
I think I identify as shy.
Welcome to another episode of the Radical BCBA. I have Yaneli here as a guest on the Radical BCBA. She is going to actually be my co-host for the podcast, The Diary of a BCBA, which you will be able to earn CUs, and we're excited. So I just want you to get to know her and meet her and see the vibes that we bring together.
My name is Yaneli Rico. I guess in Spanish that would be Yaneli Rico.
I love it.
I'm a BCBA here in Texas, but originally I am from California. Although my origin story in ABA did start in Texas. So it feels very full circle to be back here as a BCBA. But yeah, I became an RBT in 2020 and then the pandemic hit. And then it was RBTs chasing elopements, like covered in masks. And it was so awful because it was hot here in Texas and you had to wear a mask inside and outside. Because of the pandemic, my fiance now and I ended up moving back home to California. And that's where I started my master's program and I started collecting my hours. And I also started my coursework. So I was doing coursework and a master's program and my hours.
So you have a master's degree in something different?
Yes, I took the long route.
Why?
I took the long route. So I'm extremely indecisive. I think that's the Gemini in me. I'm extremely indecisive. And I wanted a master's degree where I could branch out and do other things in the future if I wanted to. Maybe I'll be an ABA forever, but if I needed or wanted to, I wanted to have that option. So I did my Master's of Science in Psychology and I finished my coursework.
Well, first of all, Gemini. Like, my fiance is actually a Gemini. My mom is a Gemini. I have Geminis all over me. And going back to having an option, why do you think I practiced OT for so long? And now I'm doing ABA, and now I'm like kind of blending that, and then I'm kind of like tutoring people. Like, I'm the same way. I love options. Like, I don't want to just work so hard to get a master's degree and then forever just do that. And as soon as you start coursework, then you became this like middle
assistant
tier, I guess.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah,
because
I already had my master's degree when I started my coursework. And I was able to get those unrestricted. I feel really lucky because that's not the case for everybody. No. I feel like everybody's like reaching, and especially if there's multiple student analysts, you're like fighting to the death for these hours. And I feel so guilty that I had it so easy. But I think that's just a benefit of certain state guidelines. I find it really interesting that it's not streamlined across the country, and just in ABA in general, it's so different by state.
Especially in Texas, I feel like in Texas, there's like nothing. You even stay as an RBT, to be honest, unless you apply for like a student analyst role, which honestly, it's just ABC who does that from what I've noticed.
Really?
I looked into it. Yeah, I was like, you know what if I become like a student analyst under a clinic, and then maybe that's how I can get my hours. But no, it's like you can be an RBT and maybe you'll get like supervision. You're not even guaranteed to make all the hours up every month. I knew people who were doing like 30 hours, like the minimum, because that's all the BCBAs would give them. And I was over here like, getting my hours, and I'm like, I'm getting 130 like every month. I'm not sweating this because it's a long journey, to be honest with you. It's just a Texas thing. I also feel like it's also an ABA thing because the field is so small right now. And I always talk about how it's up to us to change that, to be honest. Like, it would be up to us. Do we then create a clinic where we start to support that type of stuff? Right now in Texas, they're just money hungry. Like, there's no priority for that kind of stuff at all.
Yeah, and I can see that because I'm from Northern California, so it's a lot smaller, and I would wait lists are crazy long. And here, I mean, there's wait lists here too, but there's so many clinics here in Texas. It's never ending.
Yeah. And that's why you get like, because I just want to bring them in and bring them in and bring them in. Like, the whole thing here is like, we don't want wait lists, which I get because there is families who are waiting forever. And I understand that, but are they getting the quality care? That's another thing where I'm like,
Well, that's the question.
that's the question. But okay, coming from a parent, because I'm a mom.
Right.
My son almost got kicked out of pre-K 4. Who gets kicked out of pre-K 4, right? So my thought is he's already getting kicked out of this program. I don't even know where else to go. So then they also
Mhm.
have this feeling of like, I don't care where he gets accepted, just accept him. Because guess what? A lot of
Mhm.
times in ABA clinics, they don't kick him out, right? They
No.
try their best to kind of keep him in there.
Yeah.
But then are they really getting the quality care? Like, I
Yeah.
see a different perspective. I guess I could see the parents' perspective. And then I also see like my internal perspective of like, I wish everyone could receive that quality care.
ABA isn't always the best placement. It can be part of the rotation of their global services, but sometimes ABA isn't the best thing for them. I've had, especially as an RBT, I came across a lot of medically complex clients who were sort of just dropped into ABA because it was the most open, the most available, the most welcoming, if you will, to accepting them into care, but really their best placement was elsewhere. And it became almost the BCBA's job to really advocate for the parents and advocate for the child more so because parents, they finally find a place that will take them. But to hear, like, hey, your child isn't benefiting from ABA as much as they would from speech, from OT, from all these other developmental therapies can be really hard too because I can only imagine that, like finally I found a place and now they're like, oh, what? My child doesn't, benefit from
Yeah.
these services that were recommended. And it's not that they don't benefit, it's just that one, least restrictive, and two, most beneficial is elsewhere. And that's a
Hmm.
really hard conversation to have with parents.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's true. I feel like ever since I had like my BCBA hat, I feel like
Hmm.
you're right. It is me who's going to find the next placement after
Hmm.
there, right? And then it's
Hmm.
also up to me is like, can I get them services in their home? It's also up to me to even brainstorm with parents to be like, are they going to go to school? What is your plan? It's like, we do really revolve around their whole decision making in life because
Right.
I feel like it's because we're there longer though, right? You don't
Right.
really see your psychologist 40 hours a week, let's say, right?
No.
You don't see your doctor, that many hours. You see us. I mean, I hope, right? I
Yep.
hope you see your BCBA, but you see ABA.
You should.
You
If
should be
there's
seeing your
any parents
BCBA
listening.
often. Yeah, exactly. But you do see us more often than any other discipline. And I do feel that pressure of making sure it's like a bigger hat. It's like, I got to make sure I leave when I do step out of this, I'm leaving them in good hands. It's a lot of
Yeah.
responsibility.
But you mentioned the school thing. It's also like, I think parents, especially if like school isn't the right fit and ABA is a little bit of a better fit in the moment, reminding them that ABA isn't forever. I've had a couple of those conversations recently where I'm like, okay, so looking forward to their future when they're done with ABA or when we fade out ABA. And they're like, what do you mean fade out ABA? And I'm like, girl, ABA is not forever. It shouldn't be. That's not the goal. The goal is that you're gone and I'm out of your life.
But do you think this should have been a topic from the beginning though? Like,
Yes.
and I feel like I'm barely starting to enter like actually enter new homes where
Mhm.
this is the first time they're even receiving services. So it's like it feels good because I'm like, all right, I'm setting that now. I'm gonna
Yeah.
go in there. So I also wonder, like, because we worked at a clinic together and we didn't really, do initials and things like that for the cases we have. So I also wonder, like, what was told, what was educated at the beginning. This is something that needs to be in place as soon as they walk in.
Maybe they didn't even tell parents about what fading is and what that looks like. It's written in the treatment plan because it's required, but did you go over it? Did you explain what that looked like and what that was going to look like? Because I would say probably not.
Yeah. And that's what I use most of my parent meetings for. Like, to be
Yeah.
honest, like as soon as I meet them, I'm like, let me start explaining ABA to you, like a little more detailed, right? Because that's the whole
Mhm.
point, to know what are the expectations. Like, yeah, we have a lot of those hours. Like, use them up to start educating them every time you see them. Just give them a little more details as to what we're going to expect, how they're going. Like, to me, I'm not gonna lie, I like parent meetings. Like, I don't struggle
Mhm.
with them. I know people do though. I've heard people like, oh, I don't know what to do. But I also haven't been with a client for a whole year. That's
Yeah.
also like, what am I going to do in 1 year? Like, what am I going
Yeah.
to talk about at that time?
No, you would be surprised because I feel like you just never run out of things. Things always come up. Transparent conversations with parents, I think those are hard to have. And I think that's maybe why it's a little bit aversive as a BCBA for some people, because it's something that in the past I shied away from, especially as a student analyst. I was like, I don't know everything. Like, I'm going to leave this part of caregiver training for the BC, like they can talk about it. And now I'm in the BCBA role and I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
shoot, I should have just practiced it.
I had the opportunity for someone to observe me, but I
Yeah.
didn't do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah. And I think that's what I try to explain to other people. In OT, we're not that involved. We're not. But I loved parent education because I did remote OT as well. And so it was a
Hmm.
lot of parent education. So I have
Hmm.
the skill, but we weren't so involved. And now I'm in a situation where sometimes I'm in the middle. I'm in the middle working in home now because I'm working in,
Yeah.
I'm noticing like now I'm like in the middle. It's like RBTs are giving me feedback, parents are giving me feedback, but they're the ones working together. And I'm just kind of like, OMG, like such a
Yeah.
different vibe. And I have to problem solve everything for them.
Yeah.
And I
Honestly,
rather.
yeah, the drama is too real, especially when you're getting you're getting different stories from the same, like
Yes.
event that's occurred. And I feel like there's no wrong side. I just think
Yes.
interpretations are differently. And I
Yes.
think communication is really important and also preparing the parent. And I think that's part of like that monthly overview is like, these are the goals that we're going over. This is what it should look like. If you have any questions, please come to me and I can explain. I would say most of my parents don't come to me until after the fact and they'll be like, well, last month I saw so and so running this and I didn't really like it. And I'm like, why didn't you tell? Like, thank you for telling me, first of all. Okay, I'll reinforce that. But why didn't you tell me when it
Yeah.
happened?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, because it's fresh. It's like you can freshly give me that and then I can
Yeah.
and I love how you talked about too about like it is about communication. And I always try to
Mhm.
explain this to parents. I always try to tell them when I was doing OT, I was like, think about it like this. It's already hard for you to communicate with your partner, right? There's times where y'all like bicker and you're like, well, I didn't mean it like that. If you
Yeah.
already have that, imagine the communication and the struggle your child is having or any relationship that you have, whether it's between you and the RBT, whether it's between me and you and your child. It just proves that communication is harder than it looks. Like we still struggle with it as adults. And I think when I say it like that, they're like, "Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense." Even though we have full sentences, right? It still is misinterpreted differently sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think it makes it like, okay, I think it gives them that perspective of like maybe I need to be careful or be more clear, not even put emotion to it sometimes. Because sometimes when you do put a little emotion to it, it's received differently, right?
Yeah, I'm guilty. I still get
Yeah.
mad, even if you
Yeah.
use all your words.
Like use your words, use your words. I'm using my words, but I'm still so mad. Not just that, I have ADHD. So even like me trying to interpret or even understand social cues is hard for me, has
Mhm.
been hard for me for a long time. So sometimes I like people that are easier to understand that. And I feel like you were one person for sure that I really like got along with right away and we can share similar interests and
You know what I think about too, Michelle, is like thinking back to how well we meshed even when we first met was I feel like your background gave me a sense of normalcy. I think my training clinic was really unique in that we had in-house services and one of those services was OT. We also had speech, music and medical. So you would use like OT language and you had a very like heavy OT perspective on like explaining certain things. And I was like, I totally understand where you're coming from. I really loved being able to go to my OT coworkers and friends and have a special fondness for like OT and all the other DTs. I know that I don't know if you've heard about it, Michelle, but I feel like this narrative that ABA and all the other developmental therapies like have beef
yeah.
and I'm sure individuals in
Yeah.
these general categories have beef, but I feel like we can all coexist peacefully,
Yeah.
especially, with a background where I had to and learned to coexist with those therapies. And I feel like my life was better when I was exposed to all of those developmental therapies. I learned so much. We had opportunities on a monthly basis to pick each other's brains. We called it rounds because we got to meet with the medical team too, because so many of the medical challenges that our children faced also manifested behaviorally, always manifested behaviorally, I should say. And having the background from occupational therapy, speech therapy, music therapy was so nice. And I miss it.
Yeah. Let me talk about what I saw in you now. So what I saw when because you kind of talked about like my OT perspective. What I saw in
Mhm,
you was a BCBA who was interested in collaboration. You're just kind
mhm.
of like, give me that OT stuff. Like I want to know more. Can I pick your brain? I haven't met it's not even just the ABA world. It's any discipline that I've come across. The
Mhm,
only place I feel like we had the most collaboration was in a clinic that I was in that was pretty similar to yours. And it's
mhm.
because they were hiring people who had the same passion. They were smart. They're like,
Yeah,
their ads would say, like, we will pay, up to $1,000 of continuing education, and we
mhm.
are rich in education, and we want to teach you a lot of these skills, and we're a clinic that works together, and we're a team. And guess what? That really does attract those types of people. Like that's
Yeah,
the type of things that I was looking for. And so then this is how me and my fiance met actually, because she had the same experience. She's like, I was ready to learn. And so they
yeah,
bring in these people, and we used to actually do weekly meetings. Every Thursday, we would do 2 hours, and we would do something learning, some speech presentation, OT presentation, ABA, whatever. We had it all. And guess what? I used those tips that they gave me with my client, and I had such a better response, because now not only are they communicating better, I'm learning how they communicate, and I'm communicating better, behaviors better. It's like, what? It's beautiful. It's so
yeah,
beautiful. And so when you came in there and you're just kind of like, oh my gosh, I came from a clinic just like yours. I was just so intrigued. Not just that, you have RBT experience. So you know what it is to be on the other side. Did you ever have a like a mean BCBA?
yes,
Really?
yes.
How
Not
often? Like,
like not mean in that they were like outwardly mean and would like say mean things to me, but I would interpret mean as in I can't
let me
help it.
describe this to you. Mean means
Let me operationally define what mean is to me.
yes, yes.
It was feedback on implementation or on protocols that were being ran in a certain tone, in a certain way, and maybe it's just natural to the person, but that just wasn't conveyed prior to.
What is
Yeah.
something that you see yourself doing in the future?
Oh, that's such a good question. So back home, and I think I've shared this with you. Back home, there is this like it's like a play cafe. It's a cafe for everybody, but joint to it is like a treehouse play situation where it's all like glass windows so you can see into it, but parents can like drink their coffee on the like cafe side of it while they're watching their kids, as long as their kids are safe. And I feel like something like that, but implemented for children on the spectrum would be really, really cool.
Would you bring it to Texas?
I feel like because there are so many centers here in Texas, the awareness for autism and autism supports is so big here compared to where I came from. I feel like, yeah, I feel like there's a really big, I don't want to say market, that sounds so business deal type, but there's such a big need for it. I feel like outside of ABA, creating spaces for children with autism
Yeah.
to enjoy themselves and to be a part of the rest of the world is really important.
Society.
Yeah.
Yeah, society
Yeah.
overall. Here in the city that we live in, I notice like every time I Google like restaurants with playgrounds, because my kids are ADHD, like it's hard for them to wait. Yeah, it's hard for them to wait for their food. They're hungry. There's probably like three. And they're not even good places
Wow.
with good food. Yeah, there's no coffee shops with playgrounds here yet. And so it's like, hello, we're populated with children and families here. Like I can see your vision. I
Yeah.
also what I've thought about before too is kind of like even having like RBTs like who have been certified or were certified in that play area with them, watching for safety awareness, watching for things like that, so then parents could actually relax.
Yeah.
If we got an eloper kid who's unsafe, we're gonna pair you with an adult, and
Yeah.
like they come in for that. Imagine,
Yeah.
wouldn't that be
But
nice?
also think about like BCBAs on a community setting outing with a parent being able to like have a safe space to run these programs to meet other BCBAs from other companies, to meet other parents with children on the spectrum, for children to meet other children on the spectrum.
So you want this to be a place where like companies also come and enjoy it. So then you don't even have to
Yeah.
hire anyone.
Yeah, because
That
I
is
feel like
smart.
yeah, because
That
I
is
feel
smart.
like I mean, aside from like a playground and maybe like certain play gyms, there's like where do parents go, you know? I feel like it must be such an isolating feeling
It is.
to have, even if you have multiple children and one of them is on the spectrum, it must be such an isolating feeling to feel like your child doesn't have peers or a place or people to feel safe around. And I think
Yeah.
creating more spaces like that where it's just a play cafe, but it happens to be well versed and educated in autism.
And it's like that is what we need
Yeah.
to help families and parents like enjoy themselves too while they're there. I have a mom who was actually talking about like I never go out, and there's a reason why I never go out because it always ends up like really wild. Like
Yeah.
kids running around and then everyone's dysregulated, and it's like why
Yeah.
even do that? And it's
Hmm.
like, man, wow. Like I struggled with that with my son. Like he couldn't even go to the movie theater, but we tried really
Hmm.
hard. Like we would go in the mornings where there was
Yeah.
nobody there.
Yep.
We tried everything. And then at that point, we realized it was food that got him to sit through the whole movie. So then what we
Nice.
started to do is find movies with like little trays and like they serve you food. So we would eat dinner there. Where I
Yeah.
was like, I'm not going to eat dinner at home. Let's just eat dinner there. And then
Yeah.
we would buy popcorn after so we can just just stay there, and it worked.
Yeah.
And now he's watching movies. Like we go
That's
at
so
least, yeah,
cool.
yeah. Is there anything that you want to share?
What else can we do with ABA? You know, there's so many places that ABA can fall into. Okay, a little bit about me is I am a true crime fanatic,
Did
even
you
if
know we could
it
be FBI's?
okay, yes, BAU. Let's go behavioral
Yeah,
analysis unit.
yeah,
I criminal minds.
yeah.
Okay. Big dreams when I was in college. Actually, the FBI came to my college one day just like for a job fair and I went to the presentation. I was like, "Oh my god, this is so cool."
That is cool.
I was doing my bachelor's at the time in psychology and I was like, "This is very relevant." But now that I'm in behavioral health, I'm like, "No, wait, actually?" What holds me back though is there is like police academy you have to pass a fitness test.
Oh
I
no!
can't do a push-up to save my life.
You
So if
have to do a
anybody
physical.
and
You
not the
looked it
physical
up.
part, there's a physical fitness part. Like you have to do like pull-ups, push-ups and like running. Just like very I know this is very basic to anybody listening, but I can't do push-ups.
Yeah. No, same.
I can train to run. I don't know that I could do a pull up, but I definitely can't do push ups.
So
I
we got to
definitely
be
can't do.
physically fit
Yes, you
to like
literally like
identify
you go off
behavior.
to yeah. Well, yes, that's like the filtering out part.
Oh.
So I wouldn't even make it through. Like you can have my brain if anybody is in the BAU and they can get me to surpass the physical fitness part of it, I like hire me because yeah, I'm pretty sure they send you out to like Quantico, Virginia, where it's like their training headquarters, and then they like station you wherever. I may
I
or may
love
not
that you
have
know
looked into
about it.
this already.
I was gonna say that. I was gonna legit. I was like, I love that you looked into it because I legit maybe a year ago when I was still a student analyst, I was like, let me
Yeah,
see what kind of BCBA I want to be. And I
yeah,
saw that and I was so intrigued by it. The only
yes.
thing is that you commit your life to it and like honestly, financially, it's not worth it. That's to
No,
me.
it's not.
It's
Yeah,
not worth it. It's like I'm not
I
willing to commit my life if you're barely giving me six figures, I still don't like no. Like I'm talking about half a
yeah, no,
mil. Half
yeah.
a
I
mil,
mean,
then I'll do it.
yeah, it's not worth the push-ups or the
It's not.
pull-ups. But the job experience just temporarily, and even just, you know, like a few years in it, you know, on my resume, I feel like would be nice. But it's those
Yeah.
push-ups and those pull-ups that
Yeah.
I just but
I think it's our brain. I think we love learning. I think that's what it
yeah,
is. I don't know if I would commit to like being one forever, but
yeah,
just the experience of knowing how do you like look into criminal stuff using ABA. Like I could
yeah,
see how, I could see the AB science, but like I'm interested. So like
yeah.
if we can just like nerd out with people who are in it, that'd be awesome. Wouldn't
That would
it?
be so cool. I
Like
would love to meet somebody in forensic behavioral health, and because I know they're out there, but I just want to know like what do you do on a daily basis? What does your job entail? Do you like go to crime scenes? Do you do research on I'm sure it involves all of these things, but I want to know.
Yeah, I wanna know. Same. So I love that. What else can we do with ABA? And I
Yeah.
was having this conversation, actually. I have this conversation often, and I always say, I think we have to create it. I don't think ABA is big enough for listings to be on there and be, but we gotta create it. I
Yep.
think that's what it is.
That's the beauty of it is like you can really tailor it to what you like. You just have to get your foot in the door, find the right experience to get the ball rolling. Because there's ABA in schools. I've always thought, like, I don't see myself becoming a BCBA in schools for a long time, but I would love to see what that's like. What's a day in the life of a school BCBA? Because I think it really varies by school, by district, by state. Like, the possibilities are endless.
Oh, it's crazy. I'm just like you. I just want to dip my toe in it. Like,
Yeah.
can I just experience this for a month or can I just like feel what it feels like? And then you never know. Maybe you'll fall in love with it. But I would want to do it with a school, like you said, with a school that's well supported, right?
Yes.
With a school that has a great establishment. Like, there, I
Yeah.
want to learn, right?
Yes. I feel like in any career, I don't ever want to be the smartest person in the room or the person that knows the most. I just want to absorb and learn.
I
I
love
just
that.
want to know more.
I've been learning how to do these things at home. And so
Mhm.
the other day, because sometimes I'm like, okay, well, I kept thinking that my kids were going to rely on reinforcement if I
Mhm.
continue. But you know what I was doing? I was like reinforcing and then I was inconsistent. And like, it's so important to be consistent. And so,
Yeah.
once I became a BCBA, I'm like, yeah, I got to be consistent. So what I started to do to get my son to wash his hands for at least 10
Mhm.
seconds is again reinforce every time, reinforce every time, reinforce every time. And then I slowly, like, not that I faded it out, but like there's instances where I just didn't hear him washing his hands and he'll come
Uh-huh.
like, Mom, I washed my hands. And then again, I will give reinforcement.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I noticed, like, little by little, like I'm not as reinforcing as often. And then all of a sudden, he's gone almost like 5 instances of hand washing without needing reinforcement. But it's so funny because I feel like he still really does like it. And so one day he's just like, "Hey, I washed my hands." Like, acknowledge it. And sometimes I guess to me is like, are we supposed to forever like get rid of reinforcement, or do you feel like we can still keep them in a schedule? Let's say once every week. What do you think
Uh,
about that?
I think that's where um we go into the variable schedules of you don't know when it's going to happen, but it's going to happen every once in a while. So we keep that spark of still engaging in that desired behavior as opposed to the fixed ratio or fixed interval where you're constantly getting because we're building the skill and then we're going to fade it into a variable where you can't really predict it, but you know, eventually, sometimes you're going to get that praise and that reinforcement. And maybe the praise and reinforcement changes. First, you got a lollipop, then you got a small candy, and then you got a high five, and then you got verbal praise. And now you get verbal praise, every once in a while, but you don't need the big lollipop anymore.
Yeah.
And just,
My kids are
working with,
very a lot of their functions are attention. And so like praise
mhm,
has always been number one. Like they
yeah,
prefer praise over a dollar. Sometimes my son does love food in general. So he'll be like, "Can I just get an
yeah,
extra snack?" I'll be like, "Yeah, go for
same
it." Like,
dude.
yeah, yeah, that's his number two. But number one is praise. And
Yeah,
so I guess I always wondered that. I always try to think, is it okay to still have him on a variable schedule? And now I love that you're confirming that because I do that for my partner anyways. Like I have to show some form of appreciation, right? Like I'm not always saying thank you for washing the dishes, thank you for washing the dishes, but like I've also noticed that sometimes there is a distance if there's not even one instance of acknowledgement that you are thankful for those types of things. So I
yeah,
started to do that. I started to not put it it wasn't on a fixed either, but
yeah,
randomly I just placed it in a variable schedule and randomly I'd be like, I really do appreciate that you took care of the dishes this time. I was really busy today. And somehow it's just like, yeah, it just flows so nice. So I guess we are meant to stay on variable schedules of reinforcement, I would say,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, I think that's, and I love that we're applying this to relationships. I think that's where, like, Oh yeah, ABA in relationships. Because then we've got like the fixed ratio or interval, maybe once a week or once every 5 days we go to date night. And then, every 3, 4 months we go on a trip. And that's ABA in relationships. We're
It
like
is.
reinforcing, you know, the goals that we have together or the communication that we have together, because otherwise you wouldn't be with your partner.
Yeah, yeah. And I didn't understand the whole point of that, right? Setting those
Mhm.
MOs as well. Because
Yeah.
I feel like when I used to get Starbucks every day, all of a sudden, when it was a really, really hard day, it was like an expectation at that point. It's like my day was going to be ruined if I didn't get my Starbucks coffee, right? But then I'm like, okay, how about I just get myself Starbucks on either Fridays, or if I don't have it on Friday, maybe on a day where I'm just really drained, and
Mhm.
man, it just flips my mood. All of a sudden, it's more of a like, yeah, I earned it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm deprived from this coffee. I haven't had it all week. I earned it for
Yep.
this specific task. And the value of it, I feel better. It's not like, oh, I didn't have my coffee today. So like this is why I'm having a bad day. It was like the
Yep.
opposite. And so when I
Yeah.
say Greenie Bay on me, I'm like, it actually works.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is like that concept of satiation, of being so full from something that you just feel like engorged and like it's not even appetizing anymore, is like, when you do everything together with somebody and you're like, you get to a point where you're like, oh my God, go away. Like you're not even doing anything wrong. You're just here. So when I get those thoughts of like, oh my God, his breathing is so loud, I'm like, okay, I gotta go somewhere.
I've been with him too long. Let me get out. Yeah. And then you start to miss him, right?
Yeah.
And then you miss him. And then you're like, your
Yeah.
breath is not that bad anymore. You could breathe now.
Right? In vivo example, my fiance just left for a trip and I'm already like, oh, sad.
You're like, I don't mind your breathing now. Come back. It's weird. Is it weird for you? But like my brain is ABA now. Like everything
Yeah.
that I see, it
Yeah.
just I interpret it. Oh, that's on a schedule, or that requires reinforcement, or there's satiation, or deprivation and things like that. Like it's crazy that now my brain flows that way and I see it that way, which is
Everything.
beautiful,
And everything
beautiful.
in life. Even
Yeah,
my mom's just like venting to me about something and I'm like, well, what happened before that? Like, were they already tired? Were they like,
I
and
love that.
she's like, what do you like? Why does that matter? And I'm like, well, maybe this person responded in that way because they encountered somebody else or something else that wasn't
Prior.
pleasant to them prior. And it wasn't necessarily you, it was an antecedent event that you were blind to that
Wow, I
then
see
they
the
reacted
psychology
to.
side of you. Wow, I see
Yeah.
that master's psychology now. Like I really, like you could probably do like psychology, like family therapy or whatever therapy, right? I could see that in you. I love that. Like acknowledging that there is a before and then there is an
Yeah.
after for our actions and behavior.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Especially so with the people that we love, that we think we know the most. And I see this in like our line of work where we work with children and their families is, a parent will be like, well, I offered him iPad and I offered him phone time. And I asked them, I said, well, did they have iPad already? Did they have phone already? And they're like, yeah, but he loves it all the time. I'm like, well, they were satiated. They were over having the iPad. They have free access to it. Why would they brush their teeth for it? Why
Yeah.
would they clean up their toys for it if they're
Yeah.
gonna just wait you out until you give it to them?
Yeah, that's what I was doing. Next thing you know, and then they're like, I already used it all morning. I'm going to use it tomorrow morning because my mama got to work. I'm going to use it
Yep.
regardless. I'm not going to work for that. It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
It is so true. And I love that example because I remember hearing RBT say that all the time. And I didn't know what that meant when I was doing OT, right? This was when I was
Mhm.
still like starting school. And I remember hearing them saying, well, iPads are number one, but it's not working right now. Now I know the answer to that. And it's interesting too. It's like, did your BCBA never tell you this? Hello,
Right.
hello.
Yeah. And I feel lucky. I feel so lucky. My supervising BCBAs when I was accruing my hours had 10 plus years of experience, which
Wow.
is, I don't know the exact metadata for it, but there's a very small percentage of BCBAs today that have more than 5 years of experience.
Yeah.
which
Yeah,
is
there's
so
more of
crazy to
us,
think
right?
about. Right.
There's more
Yeah.
of us on the newer end than on the
Yeah.
older end. Or like there's a
Yes.
gap, right? I feel like there's either you meet someone who's been there for like 10 years,
Yeah.
7 years, and
Uh-huh.
then you see the ones that are like below 5 years. There's not really like an in the middle. It's hard to find those. Yeah.
Yes, the field is growing so fast, and I didn't know that wasn't the norm. And so I just find it really interesting that there's a difference. I mean, there's also BCBAs who have been around for a long time and their style hasn't really evolved. So I feel like nobody's perfect, but I feel really lucky that in my supervision time during hours accrual that I got two really, really good BCBAs who we would talk in ABA lingo with each other, especially because I was trying to get it down. I was, going to be studying for an exam and I was trying to pursue the goal of becoming a BCBA, but also just because it helps a lot of confusion. And so, I don't know. I very much appreciate my
Yeah.
supervising BCBAs. I think I was in a
Yeah.
really unique situation.
For sure. For sure. Because I also feel like now it's so heavy now that I've like been studying the how to pass the exam, and helping others.
Yeah.
It's really heavy on evolving and competency and culture awareness. And it's so huge. And I understand now why, because it is true. I've met BCBAs who've had years of experience before, and they're just stuck in the old ways. They're just stuck in
Yeah.
those old ways. And it's like this is why it's so huge now, because they're like, we got to step away from that. I got to educate you in what the power of, because we have a lot of power in our field. It's scary
Yeah.
sometimes. I'm not going to lie. If
Yeah.
it's not implemented correctly, you can change behavior. You can change
Yeah.
behavior. It's easy. It's easy to do that, but it depends on how you're changing behavior. Like you don't understand the trauma you could be causing. You don't understand that there's also like a psychological aspect to this, where why do you think, like, okay, you start to get into like addiction, you start to get into why people stay in abusive relationships. They're placed in these like variable schedules, right, of
Yeah.
some form of rich reinforcement for them, right?
Hmm.
And it's so hard to get away from that. And so that's why I say ABA could be scary if it's in the wrong hands. And I think that's why they're huge on making sure you understand how to be respectful, how to collaborate with caregivers, how to include them, how to be open, how to adapt, because it's scary.
Yeah. It is
Super
really
scary.
scary. And I mean, that happens with our kids too when you fall into that behavior trap where I'm sure parents are familiar with it, where you accidentally reinforce a behavior that you want to reduce and you reinforce it unknowingly because really in the moment you're trying to keep it from happening, but you're providing the thing too soon or too late. And we're already in this really toxic cycle of this continuing behavior path. And I mean, the same, I love that you put it in that way with certain relationships and stuff like that, is that it becomes a really hard cycle to break.
Yeah. And I think even though I'm a BCBA, I still am very careful. I try to be, because I realize that I'm still reinforcing behavior without noticing. You still
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Because guess what? Your neurological system is firing. You're overstimulated. You're tired. You probably didn't eat. You worked all day. I am thirsty. That sometimes I gotta make, and I'm reinforcing things that I don't even know I'm reinforcing.
Yeah.
Or not reinforcing when I should be reinforcing. And so
Hmm.
then it sucks because it's harder than it looks too, to just
And it's
implement that.
hard. It's hard to beat a reflex too,
Yeah. Yeah.
something innate that your body is so
Have
accustomed
you
to
thought?
responding
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Like, what do you think about responding conditioning? I feel like we need to dive deeper in that, because think about responding conditioning. Like, that's what you're talking about, right? Like
Yeah.
reflexes. So, like,
Hmm.
think about it like this: like, there's instances where something gets paired with something else while our heart is racing,
Yeah.
while we're nervous, while we're scared, and we got to figure out how to start unpairing that. Even the presentation of homework, the presentation of a hard task, a presentation
Yeah.
of something novel could have already been paired with something else
Yeah.
before, during learning
Hmm.
opportunities, with caregivers at school, with a nanny, with whoever, with bad experiences. So there you are presenting something and then they're escaping and you're over here like, let's remove that.
Yeah.
But what about that? you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's where diving into like trauma informed care and histories of our clients and their backgrounds and being culturally competent, because I think as much as we also try to unpair it, is like if your heartbeat is racing and I don't know that and I'm not informed about that, I don't even know that I'm supposed to start unpairing those
Yeah, you're
things.
right. You're so right.
Yeah.
It's just knowing their history
Yeah.
and
And I
knowing.
and I think it's also really heavily dependent on families being transparent, because I don't know how toilet training is going at home and my kid in center isn't wanting to transition to the restroom. I don't know what's happening in the house or maybe in school or in daycare, whatever that setting is. It doesn't have to necessarily be to the point of abuse, but maybe there's a peer that we don't like that's always transitioning with us to the restroom, or maybe it echoes and it's too loud. And I don't know that that's causing a sensory overload. And I don't know that because maybe parents aren't even aware of that. And so
I love
that's
that.
why this whole, like, my training center called it the whole child approach, is, like providing a global holistic approach to ABA. And that's why there was implementation of all these other developmental therapies under the same roof, is because then we were able to keep in contact a lot smoother.
Yeah.
And, little Joe does really, really good putting on his buttons in OT, because OT is providing him with practice in this way, or his fingers are pinched in a certain way. And I don't know that in ABA. So then guess what? I get to go right across the hall and be like, hey, Ari, that's actually my OT friend's name. Hey, Ari, how are
Mhm.
you guys working on putting on the button? And she would be able, to demonstrate those things.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
think,
without ABA words too. It's so beautiful
yeah,
to hear
yeah,
it in just clear, like, this is what
yep,
I do. And you don't have to hear it in a ABA
yeah,
scientific way, because then you're like,
right,
wait. So it's just so like natural, and they just kind of
yeah.
like tell you. I love that. I love that. Thanks
Hmm.
for always like promoting OT, girl. This is amazing. So now that our podcast is coming to an end, I just wanted to thank Yaneli. I'm always talking about her. Y'all have heard her name, and she's finally here. And y'all get to kind of get to know her, and she's amazing. And I just wanted to say thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. This was really nice practice.